Today we are staying at a farm all the way out here in Niigata Prefecture. There's nothing around but farmland, and what makes this place so amazing is that it's actually the birthplace. Hey buddy! It's actually the hometown of Japan's biggest thrift store ever, that being Book Off, of course. I brought the family with me today as well. So I thought today I would take you guys with me and show you what it's like to shop at a retro game store that's outside of the big city. And not only that, but where it all started here in Japan. Whoa. Did you hear that?
By the way, one thing I get asked about quite a bit is the Hard Off app. And I'm here to tell you that if you plan to do any game hunting in Japan, I absolutely recommend it. I'm of course not sponsored by Hard Off, so I'm saying this of my own free will. But there's an in-app location service that lets you see where the nearest Hard Off to you is. Not only that, but there's an online shopping aspect that lets you see what each store has in stock. And best of all, you collect points just by going to Hard Off. Every store you visit gives you 1 point, and that's equal to 1 yen. So visit enough, and that really adds up. Lastly, the app tracks how many stores you've been to. As you can see here, I've been to 395 out of 922 total. It's a little less than half, but one day I plan to visit them all. Alright, back to the game hunting.
Let's go!
This time I want to give you a broad idea of what you can expect to find in a Japanese thrift store. And we'll start, of course, with the games. And I've got to say, compared to the stores in Akihabara, these places were just loaded with inventory. Starting off with the N64 section, we've got Bomberman Hero in the box. And yes, this is one I didn't own yet, so I ended up picking it up. Bomberman 64 2, if I'm not mistaken, this is one of the rarest North American N64 games. Japan has a ton of sports games with this little chibi character, and they're usually littering the junk bins. Mickey's Speedway Racing, this is one of the few rare developed N64 games that I don't actually own yet. There's Harvest Moon for 2,750 yen. Diddy Kong Racing, an absolute classic. And here we have the Rumble Pack version of Super Mario 64 that was exclusive to Japan.
64も振動パックでそりゃもうしびれちゃうしかもしびれるプライス6800円
しびれる
Hey guys, I just want to say thank you so much for the recent support on my YouTube channel. It's really meant the world to me watching the numbers grow and watching people commenting and getting involved, especially with the YouTube Shorts where I've been covering a lot of Nintendo oddities and old interviews and guidebooks that a lot of people didn't even know existed. I'm happy to say that there's a lot more to come, so stick around. And now back to the game hunting. Looking at the Super Nintendo section, we've got Street Fighter 2, the new challenger for 2,200 yen. And beside that is Tactics Ogre here for 1,100 yen. And behind that is another strategy game. This one, of course, is much more well-known, Fire Emblem. That one's 1,100 yen as well. Yoshi's Island for 1,650. Donkey Kong Country 2 in the box for 1,100 yen. Disney's Aladdin, a game I've yet to play. This one's 880 yen. And lastly, we have Mother 2 or Earthbound in the West. This one's been steadily getting more and more expensive, and this copy is 4,400.
Save the planet in Earthbound from Nintendo.
And of course, it wouldn't be a visit to Hard Off without stopping by the junk section. There's a ton of N64 controllers here, and one thing I wanted to show you guys is that a lot of stores have started color coding the prices. And what I mean by that is there'll be a colored elastic band wrapped around the wire of the controller, and then that corresponds to whatever price is written on the wall. It's always worth digging through the software too. Here's a copy of Mario Kart for the Nintendo DS. It's in the junk bin with no tags, so that usually means it's 100 yen. This is Pokemon Gold with no label on it. That's 100 yen as well. The junk bins are always littered with these, but these are Monster Hunter for the 3DS. And this odd-shaped cartridge here is actually a Tamagotchi game for the Game Boy. I always thought it looked really cool. There's Mario Paint for 100 yen, but of course you need the mouse and the mouse pad to make this work. Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Donkey Kong Country, another great platformer for the Super Nintendo. I decided to take a small trip to the board game section just to see what we could stumble upon. And it took me a little while, but here I spotted this awesome Mario board game. Then there's this old school Pokemon playset. And the creme de la creme for me was this Super Mario World and Super Mario Kart themed board game set with 21 different games. This was actually made way back in the 90s, and I'm super stoked about it, so expect a YouTube short about it soon. A lot of times what I like to do is get the staff to take things out of the junk cabinet for me so I can get a good look at them and take my time sort of figuring out if whatever problem they have is worth fixing. Here I had an army of Game Boys to look at, and I think I ended up actually buying every single one you see here. You can see this one has a burnt in screen, so it'll need a filter replacement. This red Game Boy actually worked perfectly fine. The only thing that was wrong with it is one of the buttons was unresponsive, but as soon as I opened it and cleaned it, it worked perfectly. A couple of other things I picked up here were these GameCube controllers, each for 330 yen, which is a price I haven't seen in a long time. And now that I'm a dad, of course, coming to these recycle shops takes on a whole new meaning. I'm really lucky that my son enjoys taking his time and looking around with me. And of course it means I'm also spending a lot more time in the toy section. Japan has so many amazing characters that were all made for kids, like Ultraman, Anpanman, Doraemon. And of course it's getting close to Halloween, so we were all looking for costumes. And my son found this pirate one that he couldn't take his hands off of. So I think I know what he's dressing up as this year. Alright guys, that is another video in the books. Thank you so much for being a part of it and checking out this thrift store in the countryside with me. Niigata is a great prefecture. They're one of the biggest suppliers of rice through all of Japan. And you really get a sense of that driving through here. It's just fields and fields of rice. Alright guys, thanks again for watching and I will see you in the next video.